Hi everyone, Tara Diesbourg from Oakland University here. I just wanted to take some time to talk to you about ergonomics in your everyday life. Typically, we really only think of ergonomics as it applies to work, but it can also apply to tasks around the house. Since many of us are working from home these days in what we would consider less than ideal workstations for the most part, it's important to do everything we can to limit the risks associated with our everyday tasks. These risks and exposures can build on each other. So by reducing our overall risk exposure, we can live healthier, safer, and happier. So ergonomics is really just about reducing the impact of 7 ergonomic risk factors. If we can mitigate these in some way, tasks will be safer and easier to do. So the 7 ergonomic risk factors that we're aiming to decrease are awkward postures, repetition, forceful exertions, duration, static muscle work, environmental conditions, and vibration. So we're going to go through each of these briefly to understand why they matter and what we can do about them in our daily lives. The awkward postures is really just any posture that's not a neutral posture. And a neutral posture means that all of the joints of the body are as relaxed as possible. So to reduce the risk of awkward postures, always try to stay as close as possible to a neutral posture, where your joints are relaxed and segments stay nice and close to the body while you're doing your tasks. Whenever possible, keep all of the joints at 0 or 180 degrees, depending on how you define them. When not possible, 90 degrees is okay, as long as it's supported, like when you're sitting, for example. When you have to adopt some awkward posture for whatever reason, like getting things out of the crawl space or picking something up off the floor, just minimize how much you do it and for how long. Repetition is doing the same thing over and over again. Even small, easy movements can add up over time. Think of it like a rope fraying. Eventually, it wears down to the point where it snaps. Your body is no different. Typing is a good example of this. Typing is an easy, repetitive motion that can cause these repetitive strain injuries in a lot of people. One of these injuries is carpal tunnel syndrome. But the cause of these repetitive strain injuries is difficult to track down sometimes because many tasks involve similar repetitive motions. So in order to reduce the risk for this repetitive motion, just change the way you're doing the task, take breaks, and stretch. Forceful exertions is one that we understand a little better. We all understand that if you lift something that's too heavy for you, you might get hurt. Like in the rope example from before, this would be if something pulled so hard on the rope that it broke in one fell swoop. The best thing to do to prevent injury from excessive force is to reduce the force. Break up the load into smaller pieces. If you can't do that, maybe use a team lifting approach so that you're only lifting half the load at once. Duration is the length of the exposure to some risk or hazard. If you increase the length of time that you're exposed to a hazard, you increase the risk associated with it. In order to reduce the risk associated with duration, break up the time of the exposure. So for example, if you're sitting, stand up. Equally important, as with all safety recommendations, is that you spend less time doing the more hazardous tasks. So heavier lifting should be done for shorter durations of time. Static work is when one posture is held for a long time. It's also when one muscle group is used for a long time. So eliminate the need for one muscle group to do the most of the work. This means you could eliminate gripping, for example. Job or tasks rotation are also useful for varying the types of muscles used, as is changing the position in which you're doing the work. Environmental conditions include things like climate, lighting, and noise. Lighting and noise conditions can cause headaches, but some of the other videos that we posted will talk about these considerations, so make sure to check those out. I won't go into detail here. Vibrations typically occur in the hands and arms because of handheld tools. It's also possible to experience whole body vibrations, like when driving a tractor or riding a lawnmower. So reduce the exposure to vibrations by limiting the amount of time that you're doing these tasks.